Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you here today. We just had a session on silver, and it was silver in Mexico, which I spent a lot of time on it. But Mexico is not the only place that has high-grade silver, and I'll present some information on an historic silver camp in British Columbia. It is in the Golden Triangle, but you could consider it the silver lining of the Golden Triangle. It's the very southern tip of the Golden Triangle, and it's referred to as Dolly Varden. Forward-looking statement. I'll make a few comments, as you can imagine, about what I see this project evolving to. Going back in time, this is a camp that's over 100 years old, and in 1919, when it went into production, for 1919 to 1921, it was the highest grade silver mine in the British Empire at that time. Now, at that time, there was a shortage of labor in the early 20s, and there was the Spanish flu, the influenza, and so that knocked a lot of the mining operations in the 1920s down, but this was pulling material out that exceeded 1.1 kilograms per ton out of the Dolly Varden mine. On the same property, we have other mines as well. Now, there's a historic book talking about steel rails and silver dreams, and that talks about the early history of Dolly Varden. It's an interesting read. Also on the property, about 2 kilometers further to the north, is the Torbrit mine. Torbrit mined in the 1940s and 1950s, and Torbrit was mining at a grade that exceeded 500 grams per ton silver. So these are excellent silver grades in a camp like this. Its production pulled out 20 million ounces of silver out of Torbrit in the 1940s and 50s. Overall, that is nowhere near the end of the story, because you have an area that is rich in silver, that has a resource that's currently on the books for 2014. That resource there you can see up on the screen, that we took over the management of it 2 years ago. So my colleagues and I have had Dolly Varden for 2 seasons. We moved in there, we started some very active diamond drilling. This past season we drilled 29,108 meters during that summer season of diamond drilling at Dolly Varden. And some of the results I'm going to show you, because some of them have just been released, the final ones this month, but gives you a sense that there's a lot more to be found in the Dolly Varden camp. It's the same team that in Mexico and in Durango, where Keith was referring to some of his mines, that made the discovery at La Preciosa. And one of my questions was, what's going to happen in the silver space? We sold La Preciosa to Coeur Mining. We're the same team that have taken projects and advanced them in the past. Okay. So the share structure is fairly clean. We don't have a lot of shares out. 61 million fully diluted. A very strong institutional base, where 60% of the company is held by major institutions. Management does not have a big chunk here because this company was presented to our team to manage, because we had made money for investors in the past. So we've been gradually buying as well on the market, but we have not done a lot on the management side here, but a lot of institutional holders respected the work that we had done to make the money in the past, and that's how we ended up with Dolly Varden. Its location is at the southern tip of the Golden Triangle. We have access to tidewater. We have the ability to bring in our equipment by barge, and we have a road that follows the old narrow gauge rail line that went onto the property about 25 kilometers to the north. So we're up north of Terrace, near Kitsault, and Alice Arm is the location there. So in the past 2 years, we've drilled 130 drill holes. Our team's gone in there, 44,000 meters of diamond drilling in 2 seasons. None of that work is in any resource estimate to date, because it's 2014 is the last estimate. Some various highlights. The one that came out in January 7th was 75-meter intercept of 419 grams per ton silver. Within there were 16 meters of 1.2 kilograms per ton silver. Think physically how high a 16-meter intercept is. This is a very significant diamond drilling result for the last year, and it would be up worldwide. It would be one of those highlight type intercepts that you would see. But there are lots of zones where we've had good silver hits on this property. I'll give you an example. Torbrit North is near the Torbrit mine, but it's on the other side of a fault. The fault was a reverse fault, down dropped it 220 meters deeper. So it was never known at the time when they mined Torbrit. In this particular location, we had hit 22 meters, grading 433 grams per ton silver, plus lead and zinc credits. So outside of any resource estimate area. Torbrit East is where you come in the Torbrit mine, and they lost kind of where the ore was on that southeast side. They drilled some horizontal drill holes, did not hit it. It turned out that on the east side, it was higher up the hill. It's about 60 meters higher. They drilled down at an angle, they drilled out at an angle, but they didn't drill up at an angle or go higher on the hill. And here you have it in two zones, the upper Torbrit East and lower Torbrit East, similar type grades, got a 5-meter intercept of 482 grams per ton silver. It gives you an example of what more can be discovered in the Dolly Varden zone, in the property. Moose Lamb is an epithermal vein that's adjacent to the Torbrit area, and it was another case. Here we've got 4 meters, 2.5 meters of true thickness, 988 grams per ton silver, with some base metal credits that push you up over the 1.2 kilograms per ton. High-grade silver in British Columbia in a safe jurisdiction with a past mining history. Kitsall zone is about 1.5 kilometers further to the north of Torbrit. Kitsall here, you can see some results of this year. We had 22 meters, grading 333 grams of silver. Within there, there's 4 meters of 1.1 kilograms per ton silver. That's outside of any resource model that currently exists. When I talk about Torbrit and the styles of mineralization, we've got the Torbrit Glory Hole was the old mining area, is the top half of this image. The lower half is where we've got Torbrit North, and that's the one that's 220 meters deeper down. That's the same horizon. We're finding the mineralization by reconstructing the geological position of the various zones within the property. So a various size of targets. You can see here that Torbrit size in 49 to 59, what it was mined at, its grade, and where an intercept appears from the recent drilling. So we've got similar grades, we've got good thicknesses, as you saw in Torbrit size, and there's still resource material in Torbrit itself that is exists inside the area after the mine shut down in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s, was a low price in the silver cycle. So it shut down at that time, but there was still ore in Torbrit. Here we've got Dolly Varden, higher grade material. We've got hits in Dolly Varden zone as well. There's a 9.6 meters of 878 grams silver. That's still in the old Dolly Varden mine area. So on the property, there are other targets that have not been tested by us because we just haven't gotten to them yet. Over 50 exploration targets exist on the Dolly Varden property that have high grades of silver with some base metal credits. You can see up in the Ace Galena is about 5 kilometers to the north, and you've got 3 meters of 591 grams silver up in Ace Galena. It's not in any resource estimate. A lot of testing can be done up in those areas. Also within the company, we have a property that's called Big Bulk. We're going to do some academic studies with the University of British Columbia and the provincial government at Big Bulk. It is a copper gold system, and it looks similar to what we're seeing up at Seabridge's KSM style mineralization. Mitchell style of mineralization with sheeted veins, we see that at Big Bulk. So it resides within Dolly Varden as well. Community relations are important. The Nisga'a First Nation are partners as far as providing a lot of staff that come to us. A third of our team are Nisga'a. We're members of the BC Regional Mining Alliance as well. And so within that area, the First Nations issues are not a problem for Dolly Varden. So I conclude, high-grade silver, favorable jurisdiction, established treaty with the First Nation, excellent target potential, a team where we've made discoveries before and we put these kinds of deals before. But what I want to point out right now is there's more to be discovered in the historic Dolly Varden silver mine. Thank you very much.